Alright, so in this video, we're going to be doing some examples of converting polar equations into Cartesian equations. So we have our first example up on the board here. We want to convert r equals 4 secant theta into a Cartesian equation, okay? So let's write that down here. We have r equals 4 secant theta. Now, you notice we have, our trig function here is a secant, okay? And the trig functions that we have in our conversions here are cosine and sine, and we of course know a tangent one too, but secant doesn't go with any of those, right? Well, remember, we can make a secant a cosine by putting it to the denominator, right? So we can rewrite this as r equals 4 over cosine theta. Okay? Now, if we multiply by cosine theta on both sides, we end up getting that 4 equals r cosine theta. Okay? And we know r cosine theta, that's just x. So we get that x equals 4. So we have our next problem here, convert r equals 5 cosine theta into a Cartesian equation. Okay, so now you'll see that we're not going to be able to pair up that r and this cosine on the same side and get that to just be x, okay? Because if we were to move this cosine to the other side, it would be in the denominator, okay? So we're not going to be able to do that. Now, what we could do, right, if you're thinking about, maybe multiplying something on both sides, that's pretty much all you can do at this point. What we could do is we can multiply r on both sides. Okay? And what that's allowing us to do is not only do we now have an r cosine theta, but we also have an r squared. Okay, and that's really going to help us. So we get that r squared equals 5r cosine theta. This r cosine theta is an x, so we know we have a 5x on this side. And right here, this is r squared. We know that's x squared plus y squared. Subtracting 5x over, and now we can complete the square. Okay, so we'll end up with an x minus 5 halves squared. Since when we do this out, if we were to do this out, we would get a 25 over 4, which means that we need to subtract 25 over 4 on the outside. Add y squared equal to 0. Okay, and now we can just add 25 over 4 on both sides. This gives us our answer of x minus 5 halves squared plus y squared equals 25 over 4. Alright, so another little manipulation here, multiplying r on both sides. Okay, that gave us a lot of room to work with because we not only got that r squared on this side, which we know is x squared plus y squared, but we also got an r cosine theta, which we know, of course, is just going to be x. Our last problem here, convert r squared cosine of 2 theta equals 1 into a Cartesian equation. Okay, so the problem here, the big problem here is definitely going to be that double angle, right? That cosine of 2 theta. What are we going to end up doing with that, right? We don't even have anything that we could do with that here. Well, what we're going to have to do is just convert it using a double angle identity, okay? So we'll know that r squared can be multiplied by, we can convert this to 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. That's going to be equal to 1. Alright, so that's just knowing your identities. Now, we can distribute that r squared to get 2r squared cosine squared theta minus r squared equals 1. And from here, well, we know this r squared is going to be x squared plus y squared, right? But if we made this an x squared plus y squared, then we just had this leftover cosine squared theta. So what we're going to have to do here is use this x equals r cosine theta, right? If we write this down and then square it, we end up with x squared equaling r squared cosine squared theta. Alright, so we will end up getting 2 this r squared cosine squared theta is going to become x squared. Okay, and then you have your minus, and remember this is going to be in parentheses. This is going to be x squared plus y squared. Okay, it's important to remember those parentheses because you're going to have to distribute that negative. Okay, you don't want to forget to do that, or you'll get a completely different answer. So when you distribute this negative and do it out and all that stuff, you're going to get that x squared minus y squared equals 1. Okay, this is a hyperbola. If you forgot to distribute this negative, you would have got x squared plus y squared equals 1, which is a circle. Okay, so different things would happen. So that's going to do it for this video. So if this video helped you, make sure you leave a like and subscribe by clicking my icon in the top left. You can also view the playlist for parametric and polar, the explanation video for converting polar to Cartesian, and the next video in the series. See you soon.